Premeditated Patter is no longer. Good afternoon, people. I just want to start this podcast off by saying Premeditated Patter is no longer. The name of the channel. So basically, I've been having a bit of a think lately, and it's not the first time I've came around to this school of thought. You've probably noticed I've been no so much consistent with the podcast. I'll be honest, I've enjoyed doing the podcast, but I'll give you a wee bit of backstory, right? When I first got into this, the podcasting, it was me and a few of my pals. It was 2020, it was right before lockdown, and this is back when I used to drink, and we were sitting in the Village Hotel, and we were having a conversation. It was one of the conversations where you're solving all the world's issues, and in the next booth phase, there was a guy, and I think he was for Rangers TV, and he was doing an interview, and he had like a laptop and a microphone set up, and he was interviewing somebody, and we were looking at that going, look how easy that is. What? And then the light bulb moment occurred. We should do a podcast. This was long before I started doing the social media stuff. So lockdown, as we know, came into effect, and that's when I started doing social media. Started off with like parodies, then ventured into comedy skits. My pals weren't too keen to go and do a podcast. We didn't really have much of a location, but about 6 months into lockdown, we're like, right, let's get this podcast idea rolling. By this point, I had kind of drummed up a wee bit of a following, right? So we went in, it was like they call it a panel podcast, there was 4 of us. And we went in, and the idea was I could transfer a lot of my audience over to watch the podcast. So the first guest, so to speak, was me just talking about myself and that type of thing. I think we done an episode as well, we just chatted about random stuff. Because there was 4 of us, there wasn't much really on me to get too involved. I wasn't really too responsible for the running of it. We recorded 2 episodes, and then when the first episode went out, like 2 of them, 2 of the 4 was like, I don't want to be on camera, I want to pull out of this idea, I'm not comfortable sharing these stories online, which is fair enough. Just the minute they got that bit of exposure, they weren't into it. So they immediately pulled out, and the episodes get pulled. So this left me and my pal Matt, and Matt's like that, look, I don't want to be on camera. I don't really want to be too involved. I'll just do the editing. And for me, my whole life has been a track record of giving up. I've always quit stuff. I've always chucked it. I've always got half decent at something, or even when I got to a certain point of difficulty or resistance, self-doubt crept in and I chucked it. So I had that kind of feeling of past failures. And I was looking at the podcast, I was like, right, I don't want this to be another thing I've just gave up. And I was like, look, I like the idea of me just chatting to people. Maybe give it a try. And this is really about the time Scottish rap was it was doing alright. It was like, there was a lot of people quite active in it. So I was like, right, well, I'll go down the Scottish rap route. I'll talk to Scottish rappers and get their side of the story as such. And that's what we done. I went and started doing podcasts, and we were doing 1 a week. That's the idea, to build consistency. Day 1 a week. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed chatting to people. And over time, like, it's kind of morphed, and I've started speaking to all different kinds of people. Of course, you had Scott Forbes. That led on to us doing a documentary together. That was Scott's idea off the back of the first podcast we done. And by this point, I had been editing the podcast myself. So see, during like the creation of the podcast, I think maybe 10 episodes in, I get sent to jail. I've mentioned it countless times in this podcast. I get sent to jail. And in there I got a job in the radio station. And a lot of what you do in the radio station in there is interview people, and you edit your shows. It's just all audio. If you've ever been in the jail, you might have heard me, barred wireless. So I kind of cut my teeth a bit editing there. I had done a wee bit of editing before, but nothing really in depth. So when I got back out, Matt was doing other things. He wasn't really wanting to edit the podcast anymore. So it was kind of on me, and I was like, all right, I've committed to this. I'm committed to the cause. So come hell or high water, I'll just need to edit it, and I learned to edit it. I remember the first time I edited a podcast, it was my third podcast with Tari and Boyd. I think it's gone now known as Tia. It took me 9 hours. It was like a 2-hour podcast because I went through the full podcast anally and edited it, and I was like, right, this isn't sustainable. Then obviously you learn techniques. But see, editing a podcast is boring, right? It's just monotonous. A few podcasts I was like, I want to do something different. So I'll do like comedy skits, see if a guest tells us a funny story, I'll go and make a wee skit and put it at the top. So I kind of done that with Richard Dixon's podcast and Sherlock's podcast. But it was very time consuming. Then as time goes on, as I say, I met Scott Forbes and done the pod with him, and that led on to documentary. And the documentary was kind of a fluke for the get-go. I had a cameraman come in to film that, and I found out like the week before it, he was under the impression he was only filming it. I thought he was editing it as well, and he says, look, I can't edit this, mate, I've not got the time. I can give you the stuff to edit if you want. It's like, why not? I'll get a bash. And a bash I did get. But that's when I really got the love for editing, because you could tell a story with like music, sound effects and such. I just loved the process. It was so much better than editing a podcast. So that's where I get my first taste of the documentary, and now I've done 3 documentaries. And like if you look at my previous Scheme Hopping, it's like a wee mini documentaries. So I just love documentary making. But I always stuck with the podcast. Eventually, no for this podcast, but like I see the guest podcasts, I can use AI to edit them. You pay like a subscription, and it's like you can do a 2-hour podcast in like space of 5-10 minutes. Whereas before it was like a couple of hours. So I managed to really like kind of nail down the editing side of it. But I was going through that phase, and I think everybody goes through it. You're like, right, who can I get on that will do the views? And you find yourself just speaking to people you've not really got much interest in. I'm not saying they're no interesting people, but you've just not got that want for a conversation. You're doing it for everything outside of the enjoyment of a conversation. So they were like pulling teeth, they podcasts. I'll not lie, they were the kind of podcasts I was hoping people would cancel. And when they, like, are you coming tonight, mate? Aye, mate, I'll be there. Like, I was hoping you would cancel. And then I was just thinking, it's been a bit of a journey, like emotionally and mentally, this podcast. Just, there's a lot of times I'm kind of like, I'm not really, when people call me a podcaster, I'm like, a podcaster? And I do a podcast, I am a podcaster, but it was a title I never gave myself. I never wanted to be a podcaster. It just kind of happened. And listen, I love the spontaneous things, these things that materialise out of nothing. You don't really plan for life. Will write a better story than you can ever. But I just kept going, mate, because I was fueled by this, I'm not giving up on it. And that is really what's carried this podcast. And there was brief stints where I fell away for like a month and then came back and went on a run, then away again. And a lot of the times, as I say, like, you're talking to people you don't want to talk to, so I'm going to start talking to people I want to talk to. I don't care what you've done, if you've even got a social media following, if you've got a good conversation and I'm interested in it, let's do it. And I started looking forward to the conversations much more, and I was like, right, this is it. But the thing is, and I don't know if this is just me, and it isn't just me, it's quite difficult to find on a regular basis people that you want to have a conversation with, because a lot of people you don't come across a lot of these people every week, every day. Sometimes they pop up here and there, depending what they've got going on in your life, but just be luck of the draw, essentially. So, of course, that's when I kind of ventured into the Patsy crime thing. I watched a bit of Traplow Ross, and I like his stuff, the investigative, the investigational stuff. And I liked that, and of course you had the trial run I done, mate. It was like the history, capital punishment, I think was the first one I done. I was just testing it out, just to kind of spark my interest in it, because I'm one of the people, I need a bit of variety. So I done that in the latest one, the history of the Scottish prison system. Of course, that done pretty alright. It kept people engaged as such, but for me, I've been thinking lately, and I'm like, the periods where I've not been doing a podcast, it's no for like lack of effort, in a sense. Like, I've just not really had the time to commit to it. Like, I run my own business, I'm doing a degree, I've got other things I enjoy doing, like acting and all that type thing. There was times the podcast was just becoming a chore. I felt like I had to do it. And of course, you need to kind of develop discipline no matter how much you enjoy something, because you do something enough times you will get sick of it. But I wasn't missing it. I liked the odd good conversation, but it was everything round about it, because I film and edit this myself in my house, and this is my studio in my spare room. I've always kind of done that since I got out of the jail on the tag. I like it. It doesn't cost me anything to run. It's in my house. It's safe. Central location. I don't need to travel. But there is that thing, setting up, setting down, editing it yourself. It does get quite time consuming. And my channel is monetising YouTube, but you don't make a great deal of money off YouTube. And you can reach out and try and get sponsors, but that's like an added job in itself. My main living is my production company, making content for businesses. I enjoy doing that. I need to do it to pay the bills. I'm fully self-employed. Of course, I've got a degree as well, and I want to do well at that. And I'm leaning towards filmmaking a lot more. I've done the music for a period of time there, and I've not really bothered with that either. It's just, I think you kind of need to follow your heart. You know what I mean? If it's telling you something, if your soul's guiding you, you need to follow that, man. And lately I've been thinking, when I went to Italy, I got a one-way flight. It was like a spontaneous thing, just to do a bit of travelling. I've always wanted to do a bit of travelling, but I think I've got the bug now. When I went away, and I kind of had a think, and I was like, right, what am I actually doing? Because I built this channel up to nearly 13,000 subscribers. This channel got started up in November 2020, so you're just there 5 years, a fair bit of time, and I don't want to just bin something like that. But I'm working on so many different projects. I'm casting for a short film that I've wrote, and I'm kind of starting to venture into the writing and directing route, as well as the documentary route. As I say, I love acting. Like, having a space for a podcast in my life, I'm finding it quite limiting these days. And as I say, it's not as if people are banging down the door to come in and have a chat. There are certain people out there, but there's just no the desire in me to really do it anymore. With that being said, I do enjoy it, and I don't want to stop it. So I kind of came to this decision, right? So what's going to happen is, I'm going to rebrand the channel. So rather than the Premeditated Patter channel, I'm going to change it to SUMBOY Productions, because that is my production company, SUMBOY Productions. The podcast will continue. The Premeditated Patter podcast will still be on this channel. It'll be every now and again, right? So it won't be gone away completely. I'll not be chucking it all together. But what you'll see is more your vlog type content that you've seen, mini documentaries, short films. And this is just going to be essentially a creative space. So there's a bit more variety on my channel. Because as I say, if I was to keep this as a podcast channel, I'm not doing a podcast every week. I've just not got the time for it. And as I say, my interests are elsewhere. But as I've said, I do enjoy podcasting. I have built this podcast up to a certain point, so I don't want to just bin it completely. But I see this as merely an expansion, and this is an introduction into that expansion. But we evolve. We're human beings, we develop, and I look at some people that do the same thing for years upon years upon years. Fair play to them. For me, you kind of need a bit of flavour in life, because this is another thing with the podcast, right? Anything I'm doing in my life, I see a future. I see somewhere I want to take it, whether it's the production stuff, the directing stuff. I want to take this, I want to grow it. And I think that's quite healthy. I think if you're just trying to sustain something, I think you should always be trying to build upon something. The podcast, I've got no grand ambitions for it. I don't see any kind of end goal or something I'm working towards it. I'm just chatting to people. So there's no kind of, it'll never become my full-time job. Will it provide a full-time living? I don't think so. they're planning doing a live show. At one stage, aye, but let's be honest, I don't think there's enough interest in it to do that. And to build that interest, you can't be just, I don't know, I just feel as if, for me, if I've got no plans to grow it, then I think it's time that could be better spent elsewhere. Growing other things, seeing potential for expansion elsewhere. I see that everywhere else. And if you believe in your star signs as such, of course, I think, is it this year was the year of the snake? It was the shedding of the skin. And I'm deciding to kind of look at things and it's like, right, what should I take my attention away from? And the thing is, this isn't an overnight thing. As you've seen, when's the last time I posted a podcast, me and Big Sean? And I feel as if that's just been lazy on my behalf. Don't get me wrong, we talk about certain things, but it's low-hanging fruit for me to go, right, you want to come on, just do a podcast? We can have a good chat, but I think you need to be wanting to, right, I want to level up. You look at other podcasts, they're always trying to improve the stature of the guest, or want to get somebody a bit more famous, or they're constantly want to capitulate. I've not really got that here. As I say, I've done well getting it to where it is, but the channel's already got a variety of content on it. You've got your documentary stuff, and that's the stuff I really enjoy doing. So, as I say, the podcast won't disappear completely, but it will be here every now and again. If you're a fan of the podcast, that alone, stick around. You'll still get a podcast every now and again. But be prepared to see various styles of content here, because I'm quite a variable guy, I would say. I like mixing it up and putting into practical application these skills that I've learned over the years, man. I'm grateful for where it's got me. And see the amount of people that stop me, like, what's your podcast and that type of thing. That's a big reason why I don't want to chuck it, because some of these conversations you have with people, you don't realise whose ears, bedrooms, living rooms, headphones they're reaching. You don't realise that, because a lot of the people that enjoy your stuff the most are the people that don't approach you. You know what I mean? And that was what it was always about with this. It was just appealing to people with real stories, none of that. We've got all the big gangster stories or this famous person. I want to hear people that are unsung heroes or villains. So, aye, that's just where this channel is at right now. So if you're looking at the title, looking at the logo and you're confused, that is my explanation. But that's all I've got to share on in regards to the channel. But life, I'm at a mad stage in life right now. I don't know what it is. As I say, I've done that week trip and I think I've got a longing to vamoose, to boost. I definitely want to do more of the scheme hopping stuff. I want to do that worldwide and inland. I want to kind of go into the schemes. I thought of this idea a while ago. I got a wee vlogging camera and I want to kind of go and, like, see on the podcast, come to my house and that, like, show me about. Let me see it with my own eyes. So that's part of the kind of plan for expansion. Of course, scheme hopping, I want to go to all different places in the world and explore and see the world for what it is, man. We've got access to the world at quite a cheap cost when you actually think about it, given the fact that it's only been in the past 100 years we've had access to it. So I think I've got into exploring gene in me these days, and I don't know what it is, because I don't know, life, see, lately I've just felt as if it's just dead repetitive, just the same stuff. Just get up, meditate, cold water, whatever, do a bit of editing, maybe go do a bit of shooting, gym, go to a meeting, that's you. The same stuff. And I'm just like, kind of bored of the mundane. And I think it's given the fact that I went that travelling trip, so I think it's maybe the travelling bug that's in me, so my soul is crying out for it. I don't know, is it a thing that's going to be satiated by just going away and travelling and coming back, or do I need a move? I don't know, things are kind of starting to align for me. I'm in a mad weird bit of limbo right now. It's a strange period of life, but listen, I trust the process. I'm here because I'm meant to be here. So, whatever stage you're in, I've said it before, I'll say it again, It all makes sense in the end. And if it doesn't make sense, it's not the end. So I'll leave you in that, people. Like, subscribe, and don't get wide. Catches.